I hear rustling. Does anyone know what that is? Oh, Jesus. What the hell? He's
Hi.
wearing a mask, but it's like scary as hell.
I just want to say that was the exact reaction I was trying to elicit. So thank you very much because I was very scared that that was going to be like, what the hell are you doing?
I heard rustling and I was like, I don't know what's going on, and I didn't even realize that you had taken yourself off the screen. Well, happy Halloween, everyone. I gotta go change my pants. It
This
didn't
works well.
actually get me that bad, but I wasn't
If
expecting it for sure. It would scare the shit out of anybody that was watching. But yeah, that was a cool way to start the episode, though we've never done that before.
How are you? This is our post Halloween weekend episode.
Is it post?
It's November. Yeah,
Oh,
November 1st.
oh, I had a great Halloween.
Yeah.
For those that don't get it,
I hope I have a great Halloween. You know, for those listening, they might know.
it already happened.
Wow.
For those that don't get the joke, we're recording on the 24th of October, and I didn't realize that this was going to come out after Halloween. I thought this was going to be like on Halloween, but no, it will come up on, I think, the 2nd of November or the 1st of November. So, yeah. I had a great Halloween. It was a good time. No.
Are
What was
you
that to
are you
kind of-
dressing up for Halloween?
I wanted to, and I have two different potential plans. One of them I think you're involved in, right? We got invited to or not Mary, Megan's Halloween party, but also I have a prior Halloween party that I said I'd go to, but I don't know if it's actually happening.
Hmm. That's important to know if you're needed in a space.
Yes. Oh, Friday when I was working, I was in a space and I was not needed in
Not
that
needed
space.
in that space.
9:30 in the morning, and I was like, I've done everything that I needed to do today, and not in a good way. Like, not like, oh, I'm so like I was so caught up, but I was like, I now have like 8 hours left, and I had already like made my own work because I didn't want to be like to my supervisor like, I'm done. What do you want me to do? Like, that's not professional at all.
Right.
So I
You just
have
sit there and check your email. That's what I do. Is just refresh, refresh,
right.
refresh.
Yeah, well, I did that. I'm making an unofficial guide to my job. So
Oh,
um, when we expand the marketing team, we'll have that. Or if I, wherever down the road leave the company, they'll have a guide to my position.
that's
Like a
awesome. I
continuity
know
guide.
that's super helpful because when I started at Children's, another research assistant who had already been there had created a guide, and it's like this binder that I have. That's the best thing.
Yeah,
So I know that your next your successor will appreciate that. I was
yeah,
trying to think of what the opposite of
yes.
predecessor was.
Well, honestly, the goal of making it was not like I do not plan on leaving. But I mean, it can be considered a continuity document, but it's also like a guide for me and a guide, like just a professional guide. The only reason I'm calling it unofficial is because the bank didn't make it themselves.
Right, right.
But yeah,
But
don't
back to my original question: are you planning on dressing up?
my my bad. Um, yes, I am, and I had a great costume idea, but it won't be here in time. Like I didn't get it because it won't be here in time for Halloween. Um, I was gonna tell everyone I'm dressing up as an idol of mine. What would you guess
I
if
mean,
I said that?
immediately would be Lady Gaga, but that's the
Right.
obvious
So
answer.
right. I was gonna dress up as Steve from Blue's Clues because he
Ah,
was like my first hero, one of my first heroes, not my first, but and just the whole meme with like the 25-year or the 25-year anniversary and how Steve did the whole thing. They have a shirt, they have a stuffed blue, and they have a handy dandy notebook that all comes together, but it would come on the 7th. So I could easily get, a shirt that looks like it, but I don't know.
oh my God! Wait, that sounds like such a fantastic idea, and I'm glad that we can openly talk about this right now because it's technically after Halloween, even though it's before Halloween.
Yeah.
The time warp works weird on podcast land. But
Yes.
that'd be funny. You could be Steve, and I could be the current Blue's Clues host, Josh, because he's Asian, and so you could be the white host.
True.
Um,
True.
oh my
True.
gosh, that
That
could be
would actually be
fantastic.
really cool. That'd be really cool. What day is the party? Is it Friday or Saturday?
Uh, Friday.
Oh no, that's good. That's good. It's
I think
really
it's
good.
Friday.
I hope it's Friday because that would
Yeah.
be great. Um, that would actually be really cool. If we can figure out how to do that, that would be very, very cool. If we
Yeah,
could
that'd
like,
be fun. I just need like a light blue sweater and
well,
then
so
make
the
it
thing
darker
is, you
blue.
can get his. You can his
Josh's
is available.
specifically? Can I
Yes.
email Josh and be like, "Hey, can I have your
No.
sweater?"
No, I mean like the Blues Clues branded shirt. But you can, Steve's for some reason is harder to get.
Well,
And
because Steve is the OG.
well, yeah. And
None of
then
the original OG viewers watch Blues Clues anymore, unless you have kids, which
right, right.
okay,
I haven't watched since like probably the 90s. Um
but
like 99. Uh who is the middle guy? Joe,
uh, Joe, yeah,
the forgotten one. Did
yeah,
you know, wait, I have a fun, I'm going to blow your mind real quick. Did you know
okay.
that's not his real name?
But yet Steve and Josh use their real name, but Joe doesn't use
Yes.
his real name.
Yes.
Why?
I was so shook. I found that out recently.
That's silly.
Yeah. And it's not even close to Joe. I forget. It's like Christian or something. It's not Christian, but
Interesting. You sure it's not like Joe Christensen?
no, no, it's very much like a different name entirely. I'll look it up right now.
Okay. I find I find it interesting like what people dress up as for Halloween. Like I feel like there's very like creative things and there's always like the sexual costumes for both genders.
Yeah.
Like welcome to Point of View. I'm Justin.
I'm Nick.
And on today's episode, Nick and I reflect on past Halloween costumes that we've, well, I guess dressed as. We talk.
Adorned.
What do you say?
Adorned.
Adorned.
Keep going.
We discuss the positives and negatives of fear, and if it has a purpose in motivating us in our lives. Nick, let's talk about things from our.
Point of ooh. That was a voice crack. Point of view. Did anyone hear that? I just like really going all in and like
I do too. I like the most. I like trying to be super creative. Like that the sophomore year when I was Father Jack, that was so much fun.
that was
Like
funny.
I
You did a
used
great
his
job.
Vans. I used his glasses. Donovan Patton is Joe's name.
Yes, I was just about to say that. So very close to Joe. Um, but yeah, no, I was really shocked. He was also fun, not fun fact. People know probably know this. I was just thinking about it. He doesn't have a color.
Isn't it orange?
It rotates. He
Oh,
has
because I've seen
orange.
him purple too, right?
He's had purple. He's had green, like Steve, but just he has the squares.
Oh, interesting.
So
I
yeah,
love how you know these fun facts about Blue's Clues.
I mean, those were the two eras that I was really in it. I have
Yeah.
not seen a single Josh episode. I think it would be kind of weird if I was watching Blue's Clues on my own. Um,
Hmm, I
you
don't
know.
know. Have
But
you do you have like a
honestly,
costume that you've dressed up as that you are particularly proud of, like stands out among the rest?
hmm.
It doesn't have to just be for Halloween too. Like I just because I've seen a picture of you at dressed as a king recently, that's been stained into my brain for the last couple of days. But
Well, that was really fun. That was for senior. I don't remember. I think like 150s or something. And the
which
theme
is an
was
event at Loyola where you celebrate as a senior 250 days to graduation, 150 days graduation. The school hosts it. There's adult beverages, and there's like always a theme. And
Yeah.
I didn't get to have it, but you did.
Yeah. I'm sorry. That was the groups and duos theme, and because we call each other king, me and four of our friends dressed as kings, and we each had a different color. So I think we did red, yellow, green, blue, and purple.
It was fantastic.
And they all looked the same. They were all the same outfits, but we each kind of like had our own spin on it. Like I had a scepter. Brendan's crown was different from everyone else's. I don't know. There were some other ones too. There were some other differences.
Last year, when I was with my friends in New Hampshire, we did two things. We did, and during the day, since Halloween was on Saturday, during the day we came out of our rooms and into like the common spaces of the house and dressed as one another. So like we pulled names out of a hat, and so like I was Dan, and so I dressed as Dan. I thought that was pretty iconic. Yes, the same Dan that is our producer. I enjoyed that, and then in the evening we split up into two teams, and for yeah, we split up into two teams, and we each got a space. And I will say this is something that I stole from Mary. She was in the Jesuit Volunteer Corps, and they did this too, where they split up into teams, and they got a room in the house to theme, and then there was like an alcoholic beverage that you could also theme with it. And so my team was Dan and Ryan, who's been on the podcast as well, and we got the living room. And then our friend Alyssa and our other friend Patrick and our other friend Caitlin got the kitchen. And for my theme, or for my team's theme, we were like, I don't know why we thought of this. I mean, the house had like Naughty Pine in the living room, and so we think, okay, maybe we could do like a Western. But then I was like, how can we really theme a Western without, breaking the budget or whatever? So then I thought, what would be a cool way to decorate this cheaply? And I thought aluminum foil. So then we ended up doing like space cowboy theme. So
Yeah.
we wrapped everything in aluminum foil, and we had Ryan made some like what are the doors that's like the swinging doors that you see
The
in like a
saloon door.
saloon doors. Yeah, the
Yeah.
saloon doors. He made
Yeah.
those out of cardboard, which were really
Oh, all
cool.
right.
And we dressed up as like cowboys and stuff and sheriffs and things. But the theme, but there was like aluminum foil and like party light. But that was
That's
really
cool.
fun. And then Alyssa and Patrick and Caitlin, this was when, oh, what's that game?
Among Us.
Among Us. This is when Among Us was huge, and so they themed the kitchen as Among Us, and they made an alcoholic beverage and called it Sus, which I
Ah,
thought was really cool.
that is funny.
And then they came up with a way that we could play Among Us in the house, so we made the house pitch black,
That's really
and
cool.
we played Among Us, and we had to do like tasks and stuff, and the person who was the imposter tagged people, and whenever someone found the body or whatever, then we had called a meeting and stuff, and so that was really fun.
That's awesome.
So
I was gonna ask you what your favorite costume. Well, you just listed a bunch, but like, what do you have a all-time favorite that you've done?
in junior year of high school, I was Snapchat, and
That's
so I had a yellow shirt, and I had. Remember when Snapchat filters first came out, and there was like the hard eyes and the rainbow throw up, and like
yes,
there were only like a few filters that you could do.
yes.
So I made 4 pairs of glasses that had the 4 filters, and
That's
so I would
cool.
I changed them throughout the night, and I had. This is when Fetty Wap was a big thing. So I had like on the front of my shirt, it had like the fire emoji for the snap streak, and the
Yep.
number for the Snapchat was 1738.
That's really
And
funny.
then the back was, this is when the Discover page first came out. And remember, there was only like 8 or 10 Discover, and they were circles. When you
Yes.
swiped over, and they were circles, and they were in
Yes.
columns. So I printed
Yep.
out all of the circles, and I lined them in my back. So that
Yes.
one, I think
That's
that one's a
very
favorite
creative.
one. Yeah, I think that was my favorite one. I was also one of my favorite TV shows is How I Met Your Mother, and so my high school girlfriend and she was the mother, and I was Ted Mosby, who was the main character. I thought that was a good one.
That is good. I'm
Yeah.
trying to think of some of the ones I've done. I'm like,
These are the ones like in more recent history. Like as a kid, I was a sumo wrestler, which was absolutely hilarious.
did you have the blow up?
I didn't have the blow up one, but I had a costume that was full of pillows, and it
Okay.
had it had like it didn't for some reason. Again, this is a kid's well, I guess not for some reason, but like whenever I went to the door, it was when I was still trick or treating. I
Right.
trick or treat, and there was this like you saw me in a pillow suit with like the costume had drawn on nipples, and it was like the adults answering the door were always like, "Oh my gosh!"
That's wait. So were they like, oh, he's a nudist?
No,
Like,
I think it was obvious. I think it
that's
was.
really funny.
I think it was obvious I was a sumo wrestler because it was like fat costume, but then had like the. I wish I knew the name of it, but the bottom that they use, like the
Yes.
mawashi is the name of the belt that sumo wrestlers use. So it came with a wig that had like the man bun,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
hairstyle that sumo wrestlers normally have. Um, but I do not intend to offend Japanese culture with this. I was a sumo wrestler
You were a
for
sumo wrestler
Halloween.
and you were like a kid.
Yes.
Um,
The sumo wrestler costume had a mawashi, so I think it was obvious that I was a
that you were a
sumo
sumo
wrestler,
wrestler.
not a nudist. I hope. Although the reaction might have been the same.
Oh
um,
God.
and I
I
was Stitch too, and I was a mad scientist, which was fun.
Yeah. Stitch must have been fun.
Stitch was fun. Oh my gosh! Wait, I was also Blue Man Group one year.
That's incredible.
That was I don't even know if I have a picture, but it looked so silly. But it's I painted myself blue, and I bought a bald cap
Okay.
and painted it blue.
Yeah.
And so I put that on. And I had like blue gloves and was just wore all black. Yeah. What are some fun ones that you've done?
I have done so I was a bionic when I was like really young. I was a bionicle. I was very disappointed that I couldn't find the blue one. I was the red one. The red one. Okay. I what else have I been? I've been SpongeBob. I've been Harry Potter, but I feel like everybody's been Harry Potter. I don't know. I did look like Harry Potter. I was
how
a
did you do?
vampire.
How did you do SpongeBob? Like, would
There
you
was just
wear
a
like a
SpongeBob
square
costume.
thing?
Yeah, it
Oh,
was a
okay.
purchased SpongeBob costume. I was a vampire one year, and I always make fun of my mom for it because she did the face paint, like
Mm.
the pale face paint. But she gave me these like dark circles around my eyes, which like I guess like vampires have, but I just looked like a sloth with a cape. And there's a picture of it. I'll post it. And it's just like it's I
I was
don't
gonna
know
say, do you just
why.
look like a vampire that's had a long day at work?
No, because they're just literal black circles around my eyes, like completely around my eyes. She didn't do my ears either, so my ears are a different color than my face, and then the blood is like coming out of my cheek. I don't even think it's coming out like dropping down to my lip. So,
You were
but I
bit
always,
yourself by a vampire in your cheek?
yeah, she thinks it's the funniest thing now. But yeah, those are some of the ones I've dressed up as American Horror Story characters with Rachel a
Oh,
couple
nice.
times at school. Uh, yeah, those are the ones I've done. I'm probably forgetting a bunch, but
Nice.
yeah.
That's fun. Yeah, it's funny. Like, I feel like you come with Halloween, it comes full circle. Like, you like dressing up as a kid because you like getting the candy and all that stuff and trick or
Hmm.
treating, but then at some point you stop trick or treating, and then there's a middle phase you're just like, what is Halloween? It's just another day because you have homework and you're in high school and you're like, ah. But then I feel like towards senior year of high school and once you enter college, then it's like, all right, let's dress up again. And there's other activities that you can be doing on Halloween that's not trick or treating. But I think it becomes fun again.
I have a question
Okay.
because what you just said brought that up in my mind because I remember freshman year of high school for some reason, my friend and I and one other friend went around because we were like went trick or treating and we were like, why not? I mean, I guess like we were 14, so whatever. It's still like old, but whatever. I dressed up as an Angry Bird because I had a very weird. Did you have any like, or do you have any very like weird specific interests?
I'm sure I do.
Like just like things that like you've been obsessed with that are like not common.
um, when I'm on the spot like this, I don't know if I can think of them, but I definitely do.
You can give it to us next episode if you want.
Yeah, let me think about that. I
Because
definitely do
mine,
have weird specific interests.
yeah, like mine, I was very into Angry Birds, and like I know Angry Birds was huge back in like 2012 when we were in, end of middle school, early high school, but I was like really into them to the point that I could still name you each of the main characters, which I don't even think people knew that there were names for
I
the bird.
didn't.
Yeah, I can still do that
This is
in
like a
order of the bird.
strange. This is the first thing I could think of, and maybe I could bring it up next episode and bring it back. But a weird specific interest that I was like so like enthralled by when it came out, and you'll appreciate this, is when Lady Gaga
I
came
know
on
her.
stage as Joey Calderone, and I was like, this is
Uh,
so interesting. Like I'm not
no,
gonna lie, any article that like, or any video I watched, that was the VMAs, right?
yes, it was
I
2011.
watched that performance over and over and over again. Like you have like I probably to the point that the amount that you've watched it.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
normal for you, but not normal for me. And I was just like, wow, like this is so, and I can't tell you why. But and then when the You and I music video came out, I was like, wow, like I was just so interested in the whole thing for some reason.
Do you know what the meaning behind it was? Of course, it was like pop performance art, and there's shock value in that. But do you know like what the meaning behind that piece was?
No, because I didn't know you then.
I love that. I love that you would have known if you knew
I
me.
would have totally known if you knew
So
you.
Joe Calderone was her alter ego, but in the music video, she's like, there's a scene where she's playing the piano and he's sitting on the piano, and they're like kind of like romantically involved, and the message behind it is you can't love somebody else until you love yourself.
Oh,
So
I
that
love
was what
that.
it was. And of course, like that is a very dramatic and like some would call it absurd way of personifying that, but that's her whole thing. That's like campy and her pop art that
Yeah.
she. Yeah, I remember that. I There was a storm actually, and I recorded the VMAs that year, and I didn't get to watch it, so I watched it like
Like on YouTube or
obviously I watched
something?
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I watched the full thing. Honestly, I think it was like on my TV or something. I don't even know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just remember that I was supposed to be what year was that? I
it was
don't know.
2011 because we were going into our eighth grade year.
Okay. So I must have been in 7th grade then.
Yes, you were. Oh
And
yeah, I forget that we're
so
not in eighth grade.
so I was in middle school and I was like doing homework on the computer and like I just went down the rabbit hole of YouTube and found that, and I think I spent hours just distracting myself, just like listening to people's takes on what it was and watching like the thing from MTV and
Yes.
then the music video, and I was like, what is that actually her? I also didn't realize it was her. I thought it was like her actual boyfriend because she
Boyfriend,
came
yeah.
out as her boyfriend
Yes.
because Joe was supposed to be her boyfriend, right? And
Yes.
so yeah, so I it just intrigued me. Anyway, we've gone too much about
No, I love these rabbit holes. And that was the third of like she really back to back to back, like 3 years in a row. 2009, she did like the Death of the Pop Star performance for Paparazzi, which was shock. Everybody was like, I don't know if you've seen that, but it's like
I probably
shock.
have, but I can't think of it right now.
It's shocking. And I don't even know if she'd be able to do that today, just in terms of like the way, like, I think it would have to come with a trigger warning now. But then the 2010, she did the meat dress,
Mm.
um,
What
which
year did she do the egg? Was that the
egg was
VMAs?
the 2011 Grammys. It was when
Oh,
Born This Way.
Grammys.
It was supposed to be like a rebirth.
Gotcha.
And she called it a. She would kill me if I called it an egg. She called it a vessel. I don't know why.
Oh, well, hopefully she doesn't kill me.
No, no. Everybody knows it is the egg. The egg was at the museum, and then we can stop talking about her. The egg was at the museum that I visited when I went to Vegas, but it wasn't there while I was there. They added it afterwards, and I'm really. Wait, did they? Did I see the egg? No, I did not see the egg.
Is there a museum at her residency?
Yeah, it has like all of her like outfits, including the one that I just told you about from the VMAs with the blood still on it. Like it's fake blood, but the meat dress is there, preserved. But back to Halloween costumes. I don't even know how we got it. Oh, I was talking about okay, Angry Birds. Yeah.
Angry Birds. Yeah.
Yes.
But anyway, I'm excited for Halloween. I hope everybody had a great Halloween as you're listening to this. I hope we have a great Halloween, Nick.
We're
It's
having a
kind of
great
weird
fall.
that the people listening to this know more than we do.
for a Halloween costume. I should be Humpty Dumpty because I just said we had a great fall.
You should be Humpty Dumpty. That would be
A great
wonderful.
fall. Well, I hope you had a great Halloween too, Justin.
Thank you. Who
From
knows? Maybe we'll see each other on Halloween and
that's
we'll
true. Is
have
it
a great
Friday?
Halloween together.
Is it
It's
Friday? No,
it's
it's
Sunday.
Sunday.
Halloween is Sunday. Before we go any further, though, I do want to wish Megan, our friend Megan, a happy birthday because that's her birthday today as we're recording. And I want to wish Angela a happy birthday. When this comes out, it's her birthday. Happy birthday, Megan and Angela.
Oh!
Very
I
excited.
love that for both of them. And thank you, Megan, for having us over Friday night. We went to, it was my first time at her apartment, and it
Me
was
too.
just such a nice night. It was very cathartic. I loved, by the way, Megan, your roommates are awesome, and I loved getting to talk to them too. And just seeing Mary, seeing you, Justin, like that was, I had a really good time, and the Chinese food was really chef's kiss. I love me some beef lo mein has my heart. If someone wants to propose to me, do it with beef lo mein. I'm not kidding.
They just like get down on one knee and just like wrap the noodle around your finger.
I will say yes. I will say yes. Honestly, Chinese food is so prime. I don't like fish, but like it's so good.
Have you done dim sum before?
No, what is that?
Dim sum, it's hard to explain, but it's essentially like Chinese. It's like a Chinese brunch, and it's like a lot of different types of dumplings and like soft foods like that. It's not like your typical like American Chinese food. It's more authentic. Yes, thank you, Dan. Yeah, it's more authentic Chinese food.
Yeah.
We should go to dim sum at some point.
Yeah.
I think you'd enjoy it. It's cool because they come with a cart, and you're given a card when you walk in, and you just point at what the types of dishes that you want off of the cart, and then they mark on the card what you ordered, and then at the end you just hand the card over, and that's how you pay.
Interesting.
So it's kind of an interesting. It's cool.
That is cool.
I think you'd enjoy it. There are some fish things, but there also aren't some fish things. So I think you will. We should go and report back.
I'm down. You know what was really fun? Dan's birthday a couple years ago when we went to the hibachi place.
Oh,
That was
yes.
really
Dan.
fun.
We did Dan and Patrick's birthday the same night because
Yes.
they're in the same week. That
Yeah.
was so much fun.
That
That
was
feels. We talked about fever dreams last week, but I feel like that was a fever dream because sophomore year, your junior year, I feel like we did so much, and then junior year happened, and you had a great junior fall, or no, you had a great senior fall.
Yeah. There's something
And I was abroad, and then I came back, and COVID happened, and now I'm 2 years older.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw I got a Snapchat memory that said 2 years ago today, and I thought it was junior year. Also, I was like, wow, my face was so much smaller back then.
What are you talking about?
I'm gonna
Where's
send
this
you the
coming
picture.
from?
I will send you the picture. I promise you, you will agree. I have a question for you.
Sure.
How are you?
I knew that
never
was
did
going
our
to be
intros.
it because we haven't even.
We never did our intros.
We never did our
We're switching it
intros.
up today. Our mid-tros.
Midtros. It's our midtros.
Yeah.
I'm well. I'm feeling good. I'm home alone in the house again, which is good, I guess, since I'm recording the podcast. My parents are at the Patriots game with some friends.
Fun.
Yeah. This past week was extremely busy because, as I mentioned, I was at my sister's school last weekend, and then I was at Loyola, and then I had to catch up on work, and then I worked Saturday morning, and then I feel like I finally caught up on my sleep, which
That's good.
felt good. And so it feels good just kind of breathe, decompress, and just be with you as I recenter myself.
That's good.
How
I
are you?
love that calm feeling. Good. I feel like I'm kind of there too. I've had a really relaxing weekend. Like I say relaxing, I waited tables last night, but it was really I just love the fall restaurant vibe. Like there's so much it's decorated for Halloween and fall. There's pumpkin smells everywhere, like pumpkin beer. You can smell the sugar rim that everybody gets on their beers. It's like just permeates
I
throughout
feel like the
restaurant.
developed world just vomits pumpkin as soon as
Oh,
like
it does.
the fall hits.
It does. And we were understaffed last night, which was actually great. We only had 3 servers because it meant that we were each busier, meaning we each got more money. And I just, it was a good time. And I went out with my friend Jenny yesterday. We went to the Christmas, nothing crazy. It was it was like 5 minutes before we decided to go. Um, we went to the Christmas tree shops. I got some soaps.
Nice. Pumpkin? Vanilla coconut?
No, no, but that was so good. Megan, you have incredible taste in soap, vanilla coconut. I found 2. There was vanilla chai, so like maybe similar. I haven't tried them yet, but I smelled them. And I also got blueberry maple.
Nice.
So yeah, I had a
Cool.
nice.
Good.
Nothing,
No,
nothing.
no stories.
No, I don't really have any.
That's
anything.
good. That's probably better.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I will tell you. I haven't told you this yet. It's not a story, but you were right about the traffic coming home Friday night.
Oh, really?
Oh my God.
Was there an accident? There was an accident, right, on Route 3?
Well, not just that, they were doing hella construction work. And I
Oh,
don't know if you've ever been behind the guy carrying the sign that says there's going to be construction work, but they don't move very fast. You know the blinking arrow?
yeah. The
Does
truck
not
with the
move fast.
sign on the back of it, right?
Yes, I was literally like like I could have walked from like Fenway all the way to like, the mural of the fish.
Yes.
I
By
could have
Chinatown.
walked faster.
Should we talk about our topic?
Yeah, for the last 10 minutes of the episode. No, I'm kidding. Which is actually fine because the whole thing, if you think about it, Halloween is like a fearful holiday in a fun way.
Yes.
So let's bring the mood down.
I know. I feel like
the ever living hell out of you.
we've had such a what'd you say?
I said, what scares the ever living hell out of you?
Yeah. I feel like this episode's tone has been very jovial, and now we're just going to bring it straight down to hell.
Right.
So I wanted to talk about fear because we just are coming off of Halloween weekend. We talked a little bit about how I don't like being scared in that sense a couple of episodes ago, but I just want to talk about fear. And yes, fear of like concrete things. Like zombies or things like that, or like horror movies and that type of fear, but also fear in the sense of like intangible things, like fear of failure, fear of not meeting people's expectations, those types of things. And so I wanted to ask you first, Nick, what are you scared of?
Questions like this. No.
I'll obviously share too.
Yeah, no, I'm fine.
Or rather, let me change my question. What are things that like ghosts or things like that type of fear?
Okay.
Go with that first. Like, are
Okay,
there
and then
actually
we'll go into,
specific
like-
things that you're, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I would probably be terrified of a ghost if I saw one in real life. But the concept doesn't really scare me. But like, I guess the concept scares me, but I've never seen one, so it's like, ooh, ghosts. Like I think they're so cool.
Yeah.
Now
Now you're taunting them, so they're coming.
Yeah.
Ooh,
yeah.
ghost. Ah.
My mom always says she's gonna haunt me when I'm older. But yeah, I hate bees. Like, I will push anyone. I was in line at Canopy a couple weeks ago. I talked about Canopy, and there were a bunch of kids around me, and there was a bee, like a hornet or whatever, swarming. I was about to push any of them down to get away from it. Like these toddler children. I'm not even kidding. I do not like bees.
Yeah. I also am realizing that I'm not a huge fan of bees. I don't mind them if they're like flying around, but as soon as if they land on me, I'm done.
I mind them if they're flying
and
around.
I won't slap them because I don't want to, get stung. So I'll just kind of, shrug my shoulders and just kind of like tiptoe away from the scene.
I will literally start rubbing myself up against whoever is next to me to get the thing off me. I'm not even joking. And I've done it before.
Aren't you scared of getting it angry?
I get so scared and just freak out. It's embarrassing.
That's fair.
Because of those cinnamon rings that I was telling you about, like the rings on the glasses that people do with their pumpkin beer, when they sit outside, it was attracting bees the other day. and there was a
Oh,
bee on the cup that, and I was like, we didn't have a busser that afternoon, and I told my manager, I was like, Shauna, I am not cleaning that table. Like, I'm sorry, it was my table. I was like, I will not clean that table until the bee goes, and you're just gonna have to accept that. There were people like sitting around it, sitting around a dirty table, and I was like, that's just how it's gonna be.
yeah.
I was gonna,
One of my fears is, I think I've told you this, but I say the creatures of the deep, but it's
yeah,
uh, fish. You don't
fish.
like eating fish. I don't
I
like
don't either.
swimming with fish. Um, and that's because I haven't necessarily had a bad experience. I mean, I've stepped on a sea urchin before, which hurt.
That wait, could you tell that story? That's like,
It's not exciting. I think, where was I? I was in the Caribbean with my family, and I was just at the beach, and I was wading in the ocean, and I just stepped on something, and it was a sea urchin, and it hurt a lot.
did its like barbs go into you? Those are like,
Yeah, I had to pull it out. It was not a fun time.
oh my god, I'm like cringing.
So that,
Um,
I think, was my only bad experience. I think my whole rationale for being scared of fish and the ocean and creatures of the deep is that as humans, we're land creatures, right? We can run fast, we can climb if we want to, but we can't necessarily. We don't have like the webbing or anything to swim fast, and we can't breathe underwater. So if anything is going to attack me while I'm in the ocean, I'm done for. There's no defense that I have that can stop something from attacking me in the ocean.
yeah,
So I feel like that defenselessness is what makes me really scared of the ocean and things like that. And I'm also not a huge fan of salt and sand and stuff, but I will go to the
yeah,
beach and things like that. But it's
yeah.
just the fish, and it's a phobia, really. It's an irrational fear, but it's something that sometimes is debilitating for me. It's just like I can't be swimming in open water in the ocean. If I'm in a lake, that's fine for some reason, because I guess I know that the lake that my family's house used to be in New Hampshire, I knew there weren't sharks. I knew what was in there. Um, and they did a good job of educating the residents about what types of fish were in there and all the types of things. So I kind of
What
knew, and I
types
was
are in
never
there?
mostly bass, some pike. The freakiest things were catfish, but those are bottom dwellers, so they'll
Yeah,
stay at the bottom. And as long as
like
I'm
me.
not all the way, you're a bottom dweller.
Yes,
So I was
perfect
fine with that.
attitude.
I could swim in the open lake, but I could not. I don't think I'd ever be able to swim in the open ocean. It's
Oh
just
yeah, no. There are people that do swim like across the ocean, don't they?
right.
Not like
There's people
across
who,
the ocean.
but like across like the English Channel or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
and like I
also.
don't know if I'd be able to scuba dive either, because it's
Oh
just
no.
I can watch videos of that type of stuff, but I don't know. It's just freaky. Freaks me out.
Let's combine two of your least favorite things then. Have you seen, let's do horror movies and the deep. Have you seen, not Jaws, but have you seen 47 Meters Down?
Of course I haven't. I
It's,
probably would never even go near a body of water if I was.
do you know what it's
I
about?
wouldn't. Yes, it's about like the shark, right? That.
Well, it's about these two girls who are going on a vacation. One of them just like caught her significant other cheating. So they're like, let's just go on like a Bahama vacation, and they do this attraction where you go down in a cage and swim with sharks. But the cage drops to the bottom of the ocean.
No, absolutely not. I probably wouldn't even step in the shower after that. Absolutely not.
That's funny.
No.
Yeah, it's actually a really good movie, and there's a really good plot twist, which you wouldn't expect from that type of movie. I feel
Yeah.
like.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds good. I'm sure it's entertaining.
Yeah, it was.
Not for me.
Also, Google Chrome just opened without me touching anything.
Told you, you
So
threatened the ghosts.
yeah, yeah. But so we
It's
got our two first irrational fears out of the way. Irrational, never heard of it.
I don't know. Well, I hesitate to use the word irrational because I'm sure that there's something within us that's like
Yeah, threat
that's
defense.
this we have our own rationale.
Yes, I
You
mean
know?
threat defense too. Like those are things that hurt.
Right. Right. But then so there's those type of fears. Then there's also fears of like the intangible things. And I have a article from Psychology Today that I wanted to bring up. and it's by Amy Morin, and the headline is Top 10 Fears That Hold People Back in Life. And so I just want to read the top 10, and I already read this and I already know I definitely have it, but I think it will be a good jumping off point for our conversation. So
Okay.
she says top 10 fears that hold people back in life: fear of change, fear of loneliness,
Mm.
fear of failure,
Have that.
fear of rejection,
Have that.
fear of uncertainty,
Have
fear of
that.
something bad happening,
Have
fear of
that.
getting hurt, fear
Have
of
that.
being judged, fear of being inadequate, and fear of losing your freedom.
Oh, she just described me. Yeah.
um and I can share this on the screen with you so we can both look at it. But I thought it was interesting because right now in my life, I think one of my biggest fears, having graduated college in May and now starting, into the workforce, one of my biggest fears is not meeting people's expectations. So maybe that's failure. And not, I feel like when I tell people are like, oh, what are you doing now? It's like, I need to have a good answer. Otherwise, people are going to be like, oh, like he graduated college and now he's a nothing. Which is,
Mm.
no, it's not necessarily true, but that's
No.
one of my biggest fears. It's like, okay, where am I going to go with my career? And I don't necessarily have the answer to that, but I feel like I need to tell people what that answer is.
I it's like you feel like you need to answer to people. Well, I will tell you right now, just like so objectively, I'm not saying this as your friend. I'm not saying this as like someone who knows you. I do not think of you as a nothing. Like when I think Justin do, I think very successful, honestly, and very intelligent.
Well, thank you. Again, no, that's something that's like, and I've talked to you about this a little bit of like, but is that fake? Like, because
No.
there are things where like I feel like yes, I can, depends on how you measure success. I can say yeah, I'm pretty happy with how I've lived my life thus far and things that I've accomplished. But then there's that fear that comes over, and something I want to get into is the difference between fear and anxiety. But that comes over, it's like, is that really something, or is
Right.
that just how people view me?
Well, I think in my experience in life, any success I've ever had, I can say, well, that wasn't really as good as I think. And by I can say that, I mean like I say it in my head. And is that true? I don't know, but I genuinely believe that that's an experience most people have,
Right,
you know?
right.
Like even that
People have self-doubt.
yes, but like even with like I'll give an example for both of us. Like my internship, I'm like, oh well, there might not have been a lot of applicants. Like I
Your
probably
internship at Born This Way
went this
Foundation.
way. I'm
Yeah.
dead serious. But then look at yours. You have, I won't say what it was, but you have an incredible accomplishment that you were like, yeah, well, it's not like you have downplayed it to me in the past, and not in just being humble. It's just like oh well, like I don't know, like when it's a huge, huge, huge accomplishment.
Yeah, and I think I am proud of the leadership positions that I've achieved at Loyola, and I'm happy that I'm happy and honestly humbled by receiving many of the leadership positions that I've gotten. Um, but it was funny. I think last spring this was a constant kind of thought that I had, and I might have talked to Dan about this, and I've definitely talked about other friends about this. Just like, am I? Is this a facade? Like, am I really who I say I am? Am I really a nice person? Am I, no. And they weren't to the point where it was like debilitating, but it was just that self doubt of like, should I really be applying to PhD programs right now? Because am I really going to get in? Or do I really want to put myself through a PhD program? Or do I want to be, in a more ministerial role because I really do enjoy my job in campus ministry and talking with people? Or do I want to be in, you know, teaching at a college or being a resource at a college? um and this is kind of like where I land right now is there is a lot of uncertainty and the world is my oyster, which is a great thing, but it's also like, is there's so much that I could do that I there's so much in front of me. It's the question of where do I begin, where do I really want to go with it.
Yeah. I really, when you said fear, like, am I really a good person? That is a huge one for me too. And I think to be honest, I saw a post once that's like good people or bad people don't worry that they're bad people. Like, um, if you, I think intention is really, I mean, I might backtrack, I might disagree with myself later, but like in this moment, I feel like intention is what makes people good people. You know what
Right.
I
And
mean?
we talked about this when we talked about our Be Kind 21
We did. And
list about,
also,
yeah.
the whole thing, I've said this before too, but like, am I really a good person or am I doing this for myself? Like, is this a self righteous thing? When I have that doubt in my head, I've found, and this is maybe listeners, if they have had this fear, maybe they can try this too. I've found that saying, yeah, like maybe it is self righteous, but if I don't do it, I'm not doing that good thing. You know, like that person isn't going to benefit from it, so do it anyways. And I think that's a way of taking yourself, honestly, it's almost like tricking yourself out of it. Like you take yourself out of that. Okay, well maybe it is going to benefit me and make me feel good, but I'm going to do it anyways because if I don't, then it's not going to make that other person feel good or it's not going to help that other person.
Right. Right.
So that's how I um get through that, cuz I think like doing good things for people makes you feel good. And
Right.
we're conditioned as humans, you know, through, you know, trauma or anxiety or just like, don't, don't give yourself praise. Like this is not, you
Right. We're
don't deserve
trained to
this.
not celebrate our things because then it's like, oh, well, then what if someone else feels bad about themselves? Which it's
Yeah.
almost to a detriment of society, I feel like, because people should celebrate their accomplishments.
Yes.
But it's a balance of like celebrating your accomplishments, but then also not bragging, which is a weird.
Right.
I feel like that's a whole conversation for another episode.
Well,
Of
there's a fine line, I feel like, between bragging and celebrating yourself. And we're conditioned, I do think, to say, oh, don't, I shouldn't be celebrating myself, or I don't deserve to be celebrating myself, or if I celebrate myself, I'm overindulgent or a bad person.
right,
Um, and
it's
I think that's learned.
right. It's funny because there was a time when I thought for a split second, maybe a little bit longer than a split second, that I was like, "Am I narcissistic?" And then someone told me that the fact that I'm questioning if I'm narcissistic proves I'm not a narcissist.
Yes, I mean we joke about it on the podcast. I love like talking and telling stories and talking to people, but I also love like making people laugh and making people happy, and I think that's why I do it. Like it's fine to like attention as long as you're giving people the chance to also have the spotlight, I guess.
Right. Is there one of these top 10 that you can really resonate with? Again, they're change,
Yeah.
loneliness, failure, rejection, uncertainty, something bad happening, getting hurt, being judged, inadequacy, and loss of freedom.
So I would probably narrow it down to 1 through 10, but uh yeah, all of them. I think anybody can relate to all of these. I'm
Yeah.
assuming. Loss of freedom is just a scary. That's like why people fear going to jail. Like I had a fear from very young, like two, of going to jail or my parents going to jail, and I like was afraid of like cop cars when you know I was
Yeah.
a 2 year old. And I wasn't doing anything wrong, but just like that fear of losing your freedom was so scary to me back then.
Right.
And it still is, but also I know I'm not doing anything that's like gonna send me to jail.
Right.
That was a big fear when I was a kid. I don't know
Right.
why. I ripped up a Friendlies container once, a styrofoam container, and was like tossing it out the window. I was literally like 2. And my dad like yelled at me for it, and I was like, oh my god, the cops are gonna come arrest me. I was so afraid.
The 2-year-old for
I was
littering.
crying. I was so scared.
Yeah. I feel like the one that I resonate with is being judged because this is
Yeah.
not something that I necessarily talk about a lot, but I have confidence in myself and I'm very extroverted, but I think something that I have an insecurity about, and you could call it a fear maybe, is being accepted by other people.
Hmm.
And I at least need some sort of small group. And if I think I've said this before on the podcast, I think Angela's episode, I said I'm very sensitive to criticism because I think I always try and make people feel positively. And if I've done something wrong or if I've made someone feel negatively or someone doesn't like what I said, then I don't know. I get very sensitive to criticism, which is ironic because we have a point of view podcast, which is
Yeah,
basically we're sharing our opinions, and it's just
with a great exposure.
right. It is like my philosophy with the podcast is if I can start a conversation, if we can start a conversation, then great. You don't have to agree with me. If you agree with us, great. If you don't agree with us, also fantastic. But if we can start a conversation amongst people with about important things and also sometimes not important things, then that's the whole point of this.
Right.
But also it's something
The
that
point of do.
it's the point of do, but it also scares the living crap out of me because it's like, oh no, people aren't going to agree with me, or people are going to be critical or judge me.
Yeah, that's I think, and that's even like how we've evolved, like the threat to the physical self, our threat response. Um, I don't know whether I'm not, it's slipping my mind right now, but when we're fear
Stress,
something, we
the
go
stress
into,
response.
well, I think it's more like threat, like it's very like, I think it's the reptilian brain where it's like it's the flight or fight or flight response.
Sure.
It has evolved into we're not necessarily like in physical danger all the time anymore. Like our ancestors, like that were climbing trees were.
It's the yeah. So it's
But
the neuroscience behind it, or the neurology behind it, is the amygdala. And the amygdala is the part of our brain that it handles a lot of emotions, but that's the part of our brain that says, okay, do we want to fight or do we want to flight? And sometimes when that's over stimulated,
all the time.
because we no longer are hunters and gatherers and have to fear for our lives and have to run from bears or things like that,
Right.
we that's so yeah, so what you're talking about is actually this, it is the stress response, because
Yeah.
our bodies have now turned that into, oh my gosh, I have a test coming up, and that's our brain going into fight or flight when it doesn't have to be in fight or flight. It just needs to be
Right. Well,
let's
if you
study.
fail your test, you feel like you're not good enough, and then that goes into the fear of rejection because that is still something we need. Is
Right,
we are communal beings. Whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, you need people. We can't survive just on our own.
right. So something else I want to talk about, which I mentioned a little bit, was the difference between fear and anxiety. So I'm on an article on the uh, National Institute of Health. It's written by, I'm going to butcher this name, but
Terry, I think that's
is it Terry
yeah,
Steimer?
yeah. I think that's the
Thierry space Steimer. They wrote this article, and it's just about the biology of fear and anxiety related behaviors. And in it, they say that the main function of fear and anxiety is to act as a signal of danger, threat, or motivational conflict, and to trigger appropriate adaptive responses. And we kind of talked about that a little bit, right? About how um, the main purpose of fear, or at least for the amygdala stress response, is to get us out of danger, right? But as we've evolved, that danger has changed. It's gone from, okay, we need to get away from this bear so that we can bring the food and get back to our families, and stay alive, to now, what did we just talk about? My fear of being judged. Like
hmm
that I feel like that's very interesting. And our bodies, I feel like socially we've had to adapt, but yet our biology hasn't.
right. Wow, we really got the short end of the stick there as humans in 2000. What are we? 21? 2021.
Right. And this article also says that fear is kind of that, you know, primal instinct of, okay, let's get out of danger, but it's usually specific. It's not, we can have even like phobias. You can have, general anxiety, which is, a feeling of kind of worry more generally, but it argues that fear are more distinct, or you usually fear things that are more specific.
And I've also heard rational. I've
What's
also heard
rational?
rational with that. Like anxiety is fear of things that are not necessary. By rational, I don't mean to judge anybody's fears. I'm not saying that. But like anxiety or like things that can't really hurt you, but you're like nervous about anyways. You feel like they can, whereas fear is like running from a bear.
Right.
Like you see a bear, is that's fear, but like me thinking, oh, I hope a bear doesn't come and bite me is anxiety because it's like what are the
Right.
yeah.
So it says anxiety is a generalized response to an unknown threat or internal conflict, whereas fear is focused on known external danger.
Yeah.
Um, which is interesting because I feel like we confuse the two phrases very
Yeah.
often. The two
Yeah, I
terms.
don't think people would really I think if you surveyed people, they'd probably say like, "Oh, I don't really like I use them interchangeably."
Right. Right.
But yeah.
And even now I'm thinking like, is my fear of being judged? I guess that's like a specific, like I'm fear of being judged, but is that anxiety though? I guess not. I don't know.
I think it probably would be.
Yeah.
But we say fear of, but I see them all as intertwined because like if you fear being judged, you're fearing that you're going to be like what excommunicated, not really excommunicated, but you know what I mean, just like
Yeah. Disowned
outside.
from my family, exactly.
Well, no, just like pushed to the outside, become an outsider, and that's fear of loneliness, right? Like, and
Right.
we need people, in our lives, uh, which,
From
and I forget what the other ones were, but I think they just all interconnected.
right. And from a mental health standpoint, fear is a very normal thing, and anxiety is a
Yeah,
very normal thing. It's
yeah,
when anxiety begins to interfere with your day-to-day activities is when it's recommended that you seek support from a professional,
yeah.
right? Um, and like I said, fear is a normal thing, and anxiety is a normal thing. And I was wondering, Nick, is there any? Do you think that? I mean, we talked about fear has a purpose, but has your fear affected you positively? Has it caused you or propelled you in a way that you didn't expect, or has it motivated you in a certain way? Um, is there?
I,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think fear response, maybe.
Sure.
So like for example, I'll give with like ERP when I've explained that a tiny bit, like exposure response prevention. The exposure is the part that scares you. You go towards the danger basically, whatever you think is dangerous, whatever causes you anxiety. But then the response prevention is part of the exposure. If you're just doing exposures, especially, to treat, in my case OCD, you're just scaring the hell out of yourself.
Yeah.
You're not doing anything else. But the response prevention is sitting, and accepting whatever thoughts, feelings come, and just like, okay, just continuing, not, you don't do compulsions. And that can really, I think that can work for anybody, really. So I think maybe the response part is what leads you to, it's like, are you going to tell your brain that that was scary? Like, or that was truly dangerous? Or are you going to react in a way that, okay, that was scary, but I'm going to go on with my day and I'm not in danger? So I think that's probably yes, but I don't know. Maybe like a little bit of like, maybe like, oh, if I don't do this, I might regret it. That type of thing might be good for like being afraid,
Yeah.
you
Fear of
know?
missing out. That's a huge
Yeah.
fear.
Yes. And sometimes it can be, harmful to people if they're like, oh, I'm afraid I'm going to, it can lead you to bad decisions or to overextend yourself. But I don't think anything is fully bad or fully good, or.
Sure.
There are some things that I would describe as fully bad or fully good, but
Sure. I think fears that have propelled me are reaching out to people
yeah.
that maybe I have a preconceived notion of like, oh, they're not going to respond to me because they're too important, or they're not going to, for one reason or another.
Mhm.
And I think, in specifically in the moment that I'm in now, that's potential grad school mentors, because I'm trying to reach out to people who I would like to study under, because for PhD programs, instead of applying to the school, you have to apply to the the faculty member who you would like be as your mentor.
Yes.
And so I've been emailing mentors, and it's like, that is terrifying, because I look up to these people and I hope to study under these people, and I'm just sending them random emails of, hi, I'm Justin, I live in Walpole, and I'm looking to do this, and here are my research interests. And it's like, are you just going to look at this and laugh at me, or are you going to be like, oh wow, like this is something that's really intriguing? But I've gotten responses, and I will say that leap of faith, which I feel like sometimes you have to do to overcome fear, or to kind of, when you're faced with fear, you have to take a leap of faith.
Of course.
That's given me the largest, how do I say, like adrenaline rush when I get a response. And I
Yeah.
think you've talked about that too, when you, like, after you see a horror movie or something, is like you just like, oh, like
I just love a good plot twist. Anything like scary, like
like
plot twist.
adrenaline.
Yeah. I totally agree with you though. It's in you just essentially said like we essentially agreed. We said like it's what you do with it.
Right.
If you're afraid and you don't do if you're afraid of something and it's good for you like an action is good for you to take and you're afraid so you don't do it, it's like, oh well, what did fear do for you? Not much. It actually held you back. But if you respond to it positively, or we'll say anxiety, because fear I guess would be like fear of a bear, don't really walk up to a bear. But yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. So it's ironic that I am an adrenaline junkie. And like I said, after I take a leap of faith, and if it works out in my favor, I mean, sometimes it doesn't work out in my favor, and then it's like, oh, that's a bummer. But when it works out in my favor and I do take a leap of faith, I feel like, yay, it happened. It's funny. I'm an adrenaline junkie in a sense of like a thrill seeker. Like I love amusement park rides and heights and things like that, but I can't do horror. I can't which brings people adrenaline.
I can do horror because I know I'm sitting in a movie theater in my, sweatpants. I got on the Yankee Cannonball at Canopy Lake Park and almost passed away. Like, not actually, but like that's the scary part to me. It's like, oh my god, I'm gonna die. And I had fun after the fact, but the whole time I'm like, why did I do this? Why did I do this? Why did I do this?
Right. Did you do Untamed too?
Never.
So Yankee Cannonball is more of like it's a wooden roller coaster that has the drops and things, more of a gradual. Untamed is this roller coaster.
Gradual my ass.
What, Yankee Cannonball? It's totally
Yes.
gradual. Look it up. Yankee Cannonball, Canopy Lake Park. I'm not telling you, Nick. I'm telling our listeners.
I know, and I'm kidding. I'm just saying it. That is my threshold for
You
ride.
come out of your seat though. On those, like you kind of.
I'm all set.
Untamed is a roller coaster where you go literally straight up 90 degrees and then you go down, I think more than 90 degrees because you go inward. And
yeah, which is an absolutely not for me. There is a picture on my Instagram at Nick Gervasi 98.
Plug, casual plug.
No. You're gonna want to see this. It's me on that ride.
Yankee Cannonball?
Yes, there's a picture. There's a lime green picture of me and Tom with like a light blue like border. Swipe on it, like go to the next slide, and you will see me on the Yankee Cannonball, and it's horrible. You want to talk face expanding? My cheeks are like out to here, like flapping in the wind.
The ride that gives me, talk about fear, the most fear is the. I mean, I'll say the ride that most people will know, but like, Hollywood Tower of Terror, the Disney ride where you go up and you drop.
Oh, yeah.
I can't do the droppers. Like, well, actually, that's wrong. I can do it, but it takes a lot of convincing and persuading from others to get me on the ride in the first place. Because for some reason I don't like that drop like that.
And the anticipation of when it quickly shoots you up.
Yeah.
Like, I did one of those before, and I forget, it might have been Canopy. And I was like, wow, that wasn't bad. Like, it wasn't very tall, but it was fun. And then I was at, like, Six Flags or something, and my friends were like, let's do it.
Huge.
And I was like, sure, let's do it. I loved that ride the last time. I nearly, like, I don't know if my tears hit the ground before I did, but it was the worst. Oh my god, it was so bad.
Do you need new pants?
I needed, yeah. just I wasn't expecting it to that quickly go. I can't even talk. Like, I'm literally like experiencing it now as if I were there. Just the quick shoot up. And then my friend next to me is telling me we're on the ground, and they're like, look, you can open your eyes. You're like, we're on the ground. And I was like, no, we're not. I don't believe you. I don't believe, like, it was bad.
When I was in Copenhagen, my family visited around Thanksgiving, and there's an amusement park in the middle of Copenhagen called Tivoli Gardens.
Okay.
And they have one called the Golden Tower, and that one's probably the largest tower ride that shoots you up and down that I've ever gone on. And I went on it with my siblings, and my brother's who's terrified of heights was my brother, then my sister, and then me. And I think it was my sister, or maybe it was my brother, but one of them, we get to the top, it brings you up slowly. That's one that only drops. So it's not really anticipation, it's just a drop. And first off, when you get to the top, you can see all of Copenhagen, which is absolutely terrible. Like, just seeing the tops of buildings, being able to see people on like the 40th story, like, no thank you. And I think it was my brother who then said, no, it was my sister who said, I think my we're at the top. He goes, I think my thing didn't click. And my brother's like, my brother's closing his eyes. He's like, shut the hell up. I'm not falling for that. I'm not holding your hand, whatever. And I didn't hear this. And then we go down, and my sister's just holding on for dear life, because if the thing falls up, then she's shooting into the sky.
I would have bit my tongue off. I'm not even kidding.
We should get her on here to tell that story. Or
I thought you were going to say we should get you on there, and I was like, no.
Well, no, because I'm not going to force you to do that, because if I force you to do that, then you're going to force me into a haunted house. So I think that's only fair. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. They're terrifying.
They can't touch you.
I don't care. Nick, do you want to see what I was like when I was a baby? Because you will find... You want to talk about attachment. Yeah. I'm going to be attached to your leg.
All right, see you around.
Although I was thinking about... Although I'm not... This is not me saying I would do it. But I was playing with the idea of... Because we were talking about fear, and we were talking about adrenaline and getting over our fears, allowing you to potentially drag me to, like, there's a haunted hayride near me. But I don't know if that...
I don't want to, like, make you uncomfortable. That sounds so fun. But not making you uncomfortable. The haunted hayride sounds so fun.
Maybe I'll look into it, but I don't know. I'm already getting freaked out just by talking about it.
Is it fear or is it anxiety? I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Maybe both.
We are so over time.
Do
you have any last thoughts?
You have any last words?
Yeah. I have one, but I'll let you go first.
No, I don't. I think I enjoyed this conversation. It was better than I thought it was going to be.
Me too.
Again, the self-doubt. This was an episode I was in charge of, and I don't know. I
thought it was
myself.
great. I had so much fun with this.
Me too. This was a fun episode.
I'm gonna have a fun time designing the poster too. But I have a good way to very quickly close out the episode. Of course, before our outro. I'm not going to explain it at all, but at this point, I can finally let the cat out of the bag that I will be the 25th president of Loyola University, Maryland. I did accept... No, I'm kidding. I didn't accept it, but I gave it to... Could you tell us the name?
You forget?
Mm-hmm.
Terry Sawyer.
Yes.
Mr. Terrence Sawyer. So congratulations to Terry. I think
just as good a job as I could.
Yeah, congratulations to Terry. I'm excited for what's ahead for your presidency. Talk to students. That's important. Talk to students. They're the reason why Loyola does what it does, right? So talk to students. That's my one suggestion that I'll offer right here.
Do you want to close us out?
I can close us out. Right. With that, my name is Justin Dew.
I'm Nick Gervasi.
You can reach us on Instagram and Facebook at Point of DOO Podcast, or by sending us a voice message on our website, anchor.fm/Point of Dew. If you enjoy our show, give us a rating or review in the Apple Podcast Store, or share us with a friend or family member. We really appreciate all of your support, and as always, hope you have a wonderful week. Thank you for listening, and until next time, H.
Time to say goodbye. Time to say hi.